Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're starting a brand new fanfic, which is what if Naruto gained the power of a kami and became a demigod. Part 2, Harem. If you enjoy this story, please like the video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want a part 2. Now, let's begin the fanfic. Desire said, "Oh, yes, he was there to make sure you were taken care of, that the villagers saw you as a hero, that you had friends and family, that you were given your real name and respected. He made sure you always had someone to protect you, to teach you to read, write, cook, feed yourself. He believed you when you told the truth and he never lied to you." Naruto flinched as he heard this and Desire said, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions. He may care for you, but can you be sure it's not out of guilt for your parents or that the people ignored his law? He cares more for the people of that village than he does you, even though your family made the village." Naruto, who had closed his eyes trying to deny the words he heard, asked, "Why are you doing this?" Desire said, "To show you that you're not alone in the world. There is someone else like you." Naruto wiped the tears from his eyes and asked, "What do you mean?" Desire said, "When the world was still young, Kami, when she was creating things, did not know what she wanted. She made things and then had them die off to make something even better. Sometimes she would create things only halfway, then decide to do it another way. The thing that all living creatures call emotions was one such thing. Kami originally made spirits like me, each made from a specific emotion, but then she decided that one spirit per emotion would be a waste of time, so she combined the essence of each of the spirits as one feeling known as emotion. She then took us spirits that she had originally created and sealed us in her little scrap box as a memory, only for her to remember her childish mistake where we were to be sealed away forever had someone not been curious and opened the box, freeing us. Since then we have drifted, going from one place to another, reminding people the emotion we represented." Naruto frowned and said, "That was you that day, the day in the cabin with me and Ino, wasn't it?" Desire said, "Yes. I saw yours and her desire and I decided to help you both get what you desired." Naruto said, "What do you mean?" in a confused voice. Desire said, "You desired to keep your secrets and to make sure Ino did not tell anyone and to teach her a lesson. Ino also had a desire, one she's been after most of her life, that nobody would fulfill." Naruto said, "You controlled me." Desire said, "No, I advised you and you chose to follow it. I am nothing more than what you told Ino the gods were. I merely help people realize what it is they truly desire. It is their choice to chase it." Naruto asked, "Then why did you advise me to do that to Ino? Surely there was another way." The world changed from a white room to a room Naruto recognized as the room he had Ino clean, and he looked around and he heard Desire whisper, "Watch, Naruto, this is Ino dream she is having right now, her desire." Naruto watched as Ino sat there in the chair like she had been before, and he saw himself walk in and the other Naruto. During this, the other Naruto will be called Maelstrom, looked around the room and then at Ino and said, "Why did you not do your chores, Ino?" Ino said, "Because I'm not cleaning your place." Maelstrom said, "Then you leave me no choice but to punish you, Ino." As he began to walk toward Ino, Ino jumped to her feet and said in a scared voice, "What are you going to do?" Maelstrom grabbed Ino by the arm and sat down in the chair Ino had been in and pulling her down with him before placing his arm across her back as she tried to get free, and he said, "Hold still or I will punish you more than I already am." Ino said, "No, let me go." Maelstrom smacked her across the several times, making her cry out, and after the third one he stopped and said, "Now are you going to listen?" Ino said, "Yes." Maelstrom smacked her again and said, "I own you now, Ino, you belong to me. You are my slave. You please me and I will reward you, fail me and I shall punish you. You will refer to me as master when you speak to me because you are my property. Do you understand?" As he smacked her again, Ino yelped and said, "Yes, master." Maelstrom said, "Good, then here is your punishment for not doing your chores. I shall spank you 5 times. Each time I do, you will count out how many I have hit you and thank me for it and ask for another. Do you understand?" Ino said, "Yes, master." Maelstrom nods and smacked her once and she said, 1. Thank you, master, may I have another? 2. Thank you, master, may I have another? 3. Thank you, master, may I have another? 4. Thank you, master, may I have another? 5. Thank you, master, may I have another? Maelstrom then began to rub Ino gently and said, There, now that wasn't so bad, was it? Ino said, No, master. Maelstrom said, My, what is this? It seems you were excited about your punishment, as he rubbed Ino panties that were now wet. Ino bit her lip and Maelstrom said, Answer me, were you excited? Ino quickly said, Yes, master. Maelstrom said, Tell me, why were you excited? Ino looked down only to be smacked again across the and Ino quickly said, Because I have been a bad girl and wanted to be punished, master. Maelstrom said, So you wanted to be punished, huh? You like to be punished. Ino said, Yes, master. I like to be punished. Maelstrom said, Really? And what kind of punishment do you want? What would make you happy? Ino said, What I want is for you to own me, use me, treat me as you please, order me to do anything and everything you want. Beat me, use me, whore me out. I don't care. As long as you treat me as a slave. If you want, I will give up my ninja license this moment, give up my clan name, anything as long as you treat me as a servant. Maelstrom asked, Why would you want me to do that to you? Ino said, It's the reason I've chased after Sasuke all these years. As she looked down and said in a less sure voice, Ever since I was born and my mother passed away, I have been the little princess. Dad, Shuza, Shikaku, Shikamaru, Choji, customers, even our sensei. I hate my life. Everyone treats me with respect since I am the heiress to the Yamanaka clan and the next generation Ino Shikacho. I've tried everything I could think of to be treated as any other girl. I shaved my head, I tried to burn my home down, I picked fights, I screwed up customers' orders, I purposely failed class assignments, I scream, hit, insult, and boss around everyone and still everyone treats me as the little princess. I chased after Sasuke because I see what he is, a spoiled little brat who doesn't care about anyone and treats everyone like shit, hoping that he would treat me the same way, but all he did is ignore me. He will call Sakura annoying, but he won't even do that for me. I hate it. I hate people taking the blame for my actions to protect me. Maelstrom looked at her and said, So I can treat you any way I want. Order you to do anything, right? Ino said, Yes. Maelstrom said, So I could tell you go home and live your normal life and I won't have to deal with this ever again. Ino frowned as she looked down and said, You're my last hope, Naruto. I can't stand being the little princess anymore. I know it may sound nice and everyone thinks it's the way all girls want to be raised, but it's not. By being the little princess, nobody sees me, Ino, all they see is the princess. Someone who is supposed to look pretty and is too weak to protect herself, a damsel in distress who is always waiting for her Prince Charming to come along, a little girl who is pure and chaste. I have an A for crying out loud. I should be used as breeding stock to pass on my bloodline or made to work in a kitchen slaving over a stove. Not sitting there looking like a trophy on in a chair who's too fragile to even touch, as she was huffing at the end with tear stains on her face. Maelstrom said, You want to be seen as you and not what everyone thinks you are, in a dead voice looking down. Ino said, Yes, master, as she wiped tears off her face. Maelstrom said, You do realize there is no going back. I will own you and use you in every way I want. Ino said, Yes, master, I know. Maelstrom nods and said, Very well, you are now mine, as he grabbed her and kissed her passionately before taking her to the bedroom. As the door slammed, Naruto was wide-eyed and the world changed back to the white room and Desire said, Now do you understand why I suggested that? The girl wants to be owned and controlled. Trade the life of fantasy for a real life, even the life of a slave would be better than the life she lives now, that is why she came to seek you out wearing the gift you gave her as a reward. It was something she earned, not given. Naruto frowned and said, I think I can understand. Desire said, You desire so much, you desire fame, fortune, power, wealth, recognition, love, revenge, the list goes on and on. I could help you get all of it. Naruto blinked and said, What do you mean? Desire said, You will never fit in with the mortals, first because of their fear of the demon, and if they learn about you being a demigod they will still fear you. The gods see you as entertainment, and unless you pass whatever test Kami set up for you, then that's all you will ever be to them. The only one you can count on is yourself, alone, just like me. Naruto frowned and Desire said, Unless. Naruto looked up and said, unless what? Desire said, unless we could be there for each other. I can help you get what you desire and you can help me get what I desire. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, which is? Desire said, I'm tired of being alone. When I help someone get what they desire, they don't need me anymore, so I am left alone to look for someone else. If you want, we could become siblings. I could become your big sister who advises you on how to get what you desire, and you could be my little brother who would never leave me. Forever always, so neither of us would have to be alone again. Someone who could understand the pain of being unique. Naruto looked in thought and said, why should I trust you? How do I know that you're not trying to trick me to get something else? Desire said, all I will do is advise you. Everything will be your choice. I will even place my soul in your hands. I will possess that sword you have if you swear that you will never leave me. Like Ino, I would gladly give up my ability to go anywhere that I want if it meant I would not be alone. Naruto thought a moment and said, do you promise? Do you promise that you will help me achieve all my desires if I never leave you? Desire said, yes. Naruto bit his lip and said, very well, then what should I do first? The world around them shimmered and the little fox appeared floating in the world and it began to glow, and Naruto saw a small eye appear in the guard of the sword and he heard, I have now become one with the sword. Just claim me here and now is yours. Naruto walked up and grabbed the sword and the world faded around him. Naruto awoke and looked down and saw Ino asleep on his chest, and he blinked as he felt motion on his knee and he saw Ino humping his leg in her sleep and he heard her mutter softly, oh master. Naruto thought, okay, what now? He heard Desire in his head and he said, Ino, wake up, in a commanding voice. Ino, who was startled, said, yes master, before she blinked and looked around. Naruto said, you have been very naughty, Ino, and have made my pants wet with your actions in your sleep. You must be punished. Ino blinked and said, huh, what? Naruto said, don't you remember, Ino, you said you wanted me to own you, beat you, whore you out as long as I treated you as a slave. Ino's eyes got wide and said, that was real. Naruto said, no, but it was your ultimate desire you had in your dream. I was there, watching it. I saw and heard your confession and I take that oath you swore very serious. Ino asked, how could you have seen that? Naruto said, you do not question master, or do I need to punish you? As he raised his hand. Ino quickly got to her knees and said, no master. Naruto lowered his hand and said, was it true? Was what you just dreamed what you really want and desire, Ino? Ino bit her lip and slowly nods her head yes. Naruto asked, would you like it to be real? For me to become your master? Ino's eyes sparked with hope a moment and said, yes master. Naruto said, so I can use you any and every way I want then? Ino said, yes master. Naruto said, and your love for Sasuke? Ino said, there was never any love, just hope that he would someday treat me like you're saying you will, master. Naruto looked at Ino and said, and you have no problem with me being your master? You don't care about love or anything like that? Ino looked at Naruto and said, can I be honest, master? Naruto nods and Ino said, it's not that I don't care about love. It's just that I'm numb inside. I don't know what real love is because of the way I've been treated. Everyone claims they love me and it makes it where I believe love is nothing more than another form of friendship. When everyone loves you a little, it's impossible to tell when someone actually loves you more than that. Naruto got up and walked over to Ino and used his hand under her chin to raise her head since she was on her knees, and he leaned down and kissed her with as much passion as he could gently. Once the kiss was over, Ino sat there with a dazed look on her face, and Naruto, who moved his head by her face, whispered in her ear with as much honesty and care he could, swear your heart, mind, body and soul to me and I will do everything in my power to fulfill every desire you have and show you what it feels like to live and to love. I'll show you pleasure for pleasing me and pain for angering me. I'll protect you and provide for you, show you why you treasure what you have been given, appreciate what you earn, and mourn what you lost. This is an oath I swear to you. Will you accept my oath here and now with only nature and any of the gods watching us as witness besides us? Will you accept me as your master and serve only me until the end of your days, no matter what the future might bring? To never betray me or leave my side. Ino felt a warm feeling in her body as the words went through her mind and she closed her eyes enjoying the feeling and she leaned back and looked into Naruto's eyes which she saw nothing but honesty and care. She asked, "Are you asking me to be your wife because that sounded like a confession of love?" Naruto said, "Wife and husband, yin and yang, master and servant, each of these are names to bonds people share like you claim love is nothing but another form of friendship. Titles are merely names people give to make them feel connected. Which would you desire more, a feeling of a wife or a servant? I told you all life is a choice that we must live with. I ask you now which life do you desire?" Ino sat there for a moment and thought, which life do I chose? In the last few days I have felt more alive as a servant than I did as a princess. Anyone but Naruto would treat me as a princess. The question is, will I give my life to him? And asked, would you keep me? Naruto said, I treasure everything I own and keep it close to my heart because I know the pain of loss and know the value of having. I would keep you always, not only in life but in death also. I would treasure you for all eternity. I know I may someday get more servants or wives to share my life with, but I would treasure each uniquely, no matter what title they name the bond we share because to me it is all the same. Ino smiled as she let a tear fall down her face and said, I've known more love as a servant these past few days than a lifetime as a princess. I treasure this dress more than the 100 I have in my closet because it was one I earned then was given or bought. I chose the life of a servant to faithfully be yours master forever and always. Naruto nods and offered his hand and Ino took it and after she was on her feet he looked around and said, I think you have earned a reward Ino for making me happy, the secret that started this all, the one that I was afraid to reveal and afraid you found out about. The night Mizuki tried to kill me, a seal that was placed on me by my father the day I was born activated. It was on my stomach and the seal had a special clone of my mother along with these cloths, sword, and a few other things as well in it including my birth certificate. However, someone also placed another seal on top of the one my dad placed on me. It could have been my dad who did it, or the Sandame, or someone who wanted revenge against my family but I don't know which and probably never will. The seal was what put those whiskers on my face I used to have. Ino asked, what was so important about whiskers someone would put them on you? Naruto said, the day I was born the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. The same day my parents passed away, nobody has ever killed a demon before dad did. They have always been sealed away somewhere, or I should say into someone. Ino gasped as she covered her mouth and said, please tell me you're joking. Naruto said, Jinchuriki, the power of a human sacrifice, those who have a demon sealed in them are called that, only an infant can have a demon sealed in them and live. That is what I was told. Whoever put the Genjutsu seal on me made everyone believe I was a Jinchuriki. Ino asked, but why would they do that? Naruto said, depending on who put it on me will tell me why they did it. Konoha was weak after the Kyuubi attack. Either dad as the Hokage or the Sandame knew that other villages might attack us in our weakened state and thought that having a demon they could threaten to release on whoever attack us would be a good way to scare them not to. I could see both dad and the Sandame doing that, but I could also see someone hating dad and Konoha so much they would find it funny that Konoha would kill the son of their greatest enemy for them and then reveal who I am to make Konoha look bad after I was dead. I know the Sandame knows who I really am. I have my parents' marriage certificate along with my birth certificate which both have his stamp on them though he claims he doesn't. Naruto whose face looked sad and his eyes lost focus showing he was in thought said, the Sandame passed a law saying no one was allowed to talk about the sealing after he made a village-wide announcement about it. He had hoped that I would have a normal life but the people see me as the Kyuubi and have made my life hell. Sure there are some who don't but most do. The sad thing is thanks to Gigi Law, until the night Mizuki tricked me and tried to kill me I never even knew why I was treated like that. Then after that I find out that everyone is actually wrong about it and I'm not a Jinchuriki and all my pain and suffering was for nothing. As she sat down, Ino bit her lip and walked over and hugged him and said, I'm sorry. Naruto rubbed her arm and said, you didn't know, quietly. After about 10 minutes Ino who had yet to let go of him said, so what shall I do for you master? Naruto said, do you want people to know about us yet? Ino said, it's your call master. Naruto thought a moment and said, it's late today, I want to get a little more training in today before I go home. Why don't you go ahead and go have you some fun? Tomorrow go ahead and clean up that apartment I told you about. If things go like I plan, I'm going to be moving out of that building soon and I can maybe turn it into a motel or rent it out for extra cash. After that, I want you to get ready for our duties as ninja on Monday. I want you to write down a list of all the jutsu you know, how long you can run non-stop without needing a break, and any other skills you think might be of use as a ninja or a person. That way I know what to ask you to do, and also on what area you need to train in to improve. I need to improve also. Ino asked, why do you want to know my ninja skills? Naruto said, because I don't want to see you die. Now don't question your master, you. As he began to tickle her side, and Ino squirmed before burst out laughing and she screamed, quite it. Naruto kept on tickling her until both were rolling on the grass. Ino wound up pinned beneath Naruto, who hovered over her face, and he slowly leaned down and kissed her, and Ino was in heaven. Naruto broke the kiss and thought a moment before a smile appeared on his face and said, feel like shocking the hell out of Sakura, Sasuke and the rest of our class. Ino said, what do you have in mind? Naruto whispered in her ear and her eyes got wide and she said, but I never. Naruto put his finger to her lips and said, relax, there's a first time for everything and I'll reward you in advance. Ino asked, what do you mean? Naruto smiles as he slipped a hand up her dress and her eyes got wide and Naruto said seductively, my, someone seems excited. Ino bit her lip as Naruto rubbed her through her panties and he kissed her lips passionately and she moaned into his mouth. After a few moments Ino was really turned on and Naruto crawled down and raised her dress up with Ino lifting her to help. Naruto then said, purple really is your favorite color, huh? Ino said, yes master. As she blushed. Naruto nods and slid her panties off and said, just as beautiful as I thought it would be. As he bent down and began to kiss the outside of her thighs, working his way up to her womanhood, and he said, Jasmine's. As he began to her womanhood with gutso, making Ino squirm and squeal in pleasure, and Naruto stopped and looked at Ino, who mewed, and Naruto said, at least I now know why you're named Ino. Before she had a chance to respond, he attacked her lips again and quickly began to assault her with his tongue. For the next 30 minutes Ino was in pleasure and was panting and squealing as Naruto used his mouth and fingers to please her. After her fourth orgasm, Naruto stopped and crawled up to where Ino was exhausted and said, so, are you satisfied with your reward? Ino, whose eyes were half closed, said, very. Naruto said, good. Now I don't know about you, but I think we should head home for the day. Ino said, you're not going to? A little sad. Naruto said, I will eventually, but not today. I want you to be ready for it, and I can tell you're nervous about it. We will take things slowly as long as you keep me pleased. Ino said, and if I don't? In a half-defiant, half-joke way. Naruto said, I could have stopped each time before you climaxed. Ino's eyes got wide and she whimpered and said, sorry master. Naruto said, good. Now let's get this mess cleaned up from our lunch in my desert and go home to rest. Ino blushed as Naruto looked at her crotch when he said desert, but slowly got up and slipped on her panties and began to clean up the picnic that Naruto had started to clean up. After they were done and started to leave, Naruto called over his shoulder, good night Oak, see you soon. Ino looked confused until a voice said, good night young master. Ino's eyes got wide and said, who was back there master? As she blushed thinking of what they saw. Naruto said, I'll tell you later. Ino frowned but nods and Naruto said, don't tell anyone about us yet. I have a few things to take care of the next few days, so you may not see me much, but don't worry. I'll check up on you when I can and reward you if I see fit. Ino said, I love your rewards master. Naruto stopped and pulled Ino close to him and looked her in the eyes and asked, is this what you want, Ino? I mean, things are moving very fast and I've been hated and will be hated for a while by the people of Konoha because of the lie, and I don't know if I am ready to reveal the truth yet. Are you sure you want me? I don't want to trust you and be hurt. Ino looked into his eyes and said, I won't betray you again, Naruto. I'm sorry I did. I know the most I might ever be to you is a toy to use as you see fit and a woman to pop out a kid or two for you because of what I did. ... I can see also that you won't actually hurt me. You could have hurt me at any time in that cabin or in that apartment and no one would have found me. I know you're stronger than me, so there is very little I could have done to stop you if you had. But you didn't. I've actually walked out in public before in less than what you saw me in at the cabin trying to get in trouble after Dad told me I couldn't buy a $1,200 dress. Instead of punishing me for being spoiled, he gave in and bought that dress, and I never once wore it. This is what I have wanted since that night I saved that girl. Naruto asked. Why? What caused you to change into Ino the bitch? Ino looked down and said, Suzuki, the girl I helped. I met her at the park a week before that. She was stealing wallets to give to the owner of the orphanage. I didn't understand why she was doing it, so I went to the orphanage with her saying I didn't have any parents in. I was only there for 3 hours when Daddy found me and took me away. When I saw Suzuki again, she had a broke arm and was missing a couple of teeth. She didn't trust me for leaving her and I wanted her trust back, so when she told me that she found someone who was willing to take her away from the orphanage if she could get out of the orphanage, I agreed to help her escape. She met this woman. She looked like an Anbu but wasn't. I don't know how to describe her, but the woman told Suzuki that if she agreed to serve her master she would have food, shelter, cloths, home, and a purpose. She would never have to fear being hurt again because she would be protected by her master and all she had to do was serve her master. Suzuki agreed and begged me to come with her. The Anbu seemed to know who I was and asked me if I wanted freedom also. Freedom from all the fake smiles and fake love, from everyone always having to protect me and having me be the weak little princess. I called the woman a liar, told her people loved me and it was real, and begged Suzuki not to go with her. Suzuki left with her. I saw her a year later. I talked to her and asked how she was. She seemed so happy and said her master made her life great. She told me she had been watching me from a distance when she could, and she pointed out how after I broke my leg Shikamaru and Choji had to stop what they were doing to catch me if I climbed a tree, how everyone had to protect the little princess and give me fake love, giving examples, and how I was a weak little girl. I slapped her and that was the last time I saw her, but her last words were, "Hope you're happy in your trophy case." Naruto pulled Ino into a hug because she had tears in her eyes. Ino said, after that I took time to really look at things around me. That was when I ran into Sakura the first time and wanted to prove I wasn't a trophy by helping her, but even Sakura put me on a trophy case. I could never escape. I wanted an escape. Naruto said, thus the reason you want to be a slave. Suzuki became truly happy because she became a slave to someone, and so you thought if you could follow her footsteps that you could also. Ino said, yeah, pretty stupid huh? Naruto said, you're talking to the guy who acts like orange is the greatest color ever, who wanted to be seen instead of ignored. I could probably understand you better than anyone. Listen Ino. I'm not the best guy around, but I will try to make you happy, but not because I see the heiress to the Yamanaka clan. I only give respect to those who earned it in my eyes. The rest of the world can kiss my blonde as I tell them to off. Now that you're showing the real you, you earn some of my respect, so you're no longer my enemy, or just a toy or a baby factory. If I wanted that I would let the council blow smoke up my Kami. When the hell did I become this? As he grabbed his head hearing himself talk. Ino laughed and said, what the hell's happening to us Naruto? Naruto said, damned if I know. I think I've been drinking again or something. Ino blinked and said, you drink? Naruto said, those 3 ladies, well, one of them happens to be my godmother, as weird as that sounds. Ino scrunched her nose and said, that sounds. Naruto said, tell me about it. Anyways, the other 2 are her sisters, though I don't know if it is by blood. They took me out to a bar away from the village and got me drunk and dancing, and then, well, you saw how it ended. Ino shook her head and said, well, you did use protection, right? Naruto said, I don't know. I know they gave me this and said as long as I wear it I don't have to worry about kids and my bloodline stops any STD, as he showed a ring on his finger. Ino looked at it and said, there must be some kind of seal and jutsu on it somewhere. Naruto said, I don't know, but are you really okay with this? I mean, are you sure you want the dead last to be in charge of your life? Ino said, I am master. Naruto said, then make sure you please me so I can reward you. Well, this looks like where we must go separate ways. I'll see you soon Ino. As they got back to the village, Ino quickly kissed him and said, see you tomorrow Master Kun, as she ran off. Naruto sighed and Desire said, "So, how do you like me fulfilling your desire?" Naruto thought, "I like it." Desire said seductively, "Good brother." As several small pea-sized ball of energy appeared in front of the eye of the sword on Naruto back before it flew into the eye. The next day Ino was working at her family business when Naruto walked into the Yamanaka flower shop and Ino blinked and said, "What are you doing here, Naruto?" Naruto said, "Well, I thought about what we were talking about and I came to speak with your father about it." Ino paled as Inoichi walked in out of the back and said, "I heard you wanted to speak with me about something." Naruto said, "Yeah, Ino heard about the fact I owned my apartment building and she asked me about it, and after getting some help recently I have an opening in the building. She told me since she's a kunoichi of the village she wanted to start showing everyone she could take care of herself and be more self-sufficient. Out of respect for her and yourself I wanted to come by and discuss the terms for renting it out. Is this a bad time or should I come back later?" Inoichi looked at Ino and asked, "Is this true, Ino? Were you really thinking about moving out?" Ino saw Naruto barely nod and said, Yeah dad. I wanted to do it all on my own to show that I'm not a little girl anymore." Inoichi smiled and said, "I'm surprised honey and wish you would have talked with me, but I guess you wanted to be more self-reliant, huh?" Naruto said, "Yeah, and Ino really loved the place when I showed it to her and explained about the security features the apartment had. I mean the one with the soundproofing seals that make it where outside noise or noisy neighbors can't bother you, as well as nobody can see in through the window and spy on you, as well as the seals that make it where nobody but those who has a key can get in. You can't even shushin into the apartments." Inoichi said, "Really? I didn't know about that." Naruto said, "Perks of having the Hokage act as a grandpa. Every apartment I own is that way. I've mostly rented out to potential businessmen and women who were looking into moving to Konoha full-time, so most of the apartments are just sitting empty, but everything is on par with Konoha health codes. You know how strict the council enforces those on young landowners like me," with a wink at Inoichi. Inoichi said, "Yeah, the council can be brutal sometimes, so what is this deal?" Naruto said, "Rent is a $125 a month plus utilities with a $400 security deposit that I'm willing to split over the first year if Ino will sign a full year's lease and you would co-sign, saying if she comes up short on her payment you would help her make her payment. If anyone moves in with her the rent will go up to $200 a month plus an extra $200 security deposit plus utilities." Inoichi said, "That seems reasonable, but what about upkeep and repairs?" Naruto said, "The apartment passes all regulations and I have documented proof of that, and if natural wear and tear causes the damage I will fix it, but if Ino purposely clogs the drain or floods the apartment or burns it down, which when investigated finds she was responsible, she will have to pay to repair it back to regulation standards. I don't care if she paints, but when she moves out the walls have to go back to being white before she gets her deposit." Inoichi said, "And this is your standard rate you have for everyone?" Naruto said, "For those interested in long-term renting like Ino it is. If it's a skilled worker like a carpenter or someone like that, if they are willing to show me some skills to add to my own, I only charge them $100 a week, utility included, though most move out within a day or two finding what they were looking for or not finding it and moving on. It's how I can afford to keep my property up to code and not go broke." Inoichi nods and said, "And this is what you want, princess?" Ino said, "Yes. I want to show everyone I can take care of myself." Inoichi nods and said, "Well, alright then. I suppose you want to use your pay from here to cover it, right?" Naruto looked at Ino confused and said, I thought you said you were wanting to earn it from doing missions and only work her part-time, giving your dad a chance to hire someone to work here and give him more free time also. It doesn't matter to me as long as you can make your payment, but I thought with the way you were asking me for training ideas you were going to be spending time training to be a better kunoichi." Ino said, "And I am. I just wanted to talk with daddy first to see if that's alright. I thought it would take you longer to get that apartment ready." Naruto said, "Well, I'm looking into getting some more properties soon and might be moving out of the apartment building soon into a house I'm looking into getting." Inoichi said, "The housing market is that good?" Naruto said, With the Chunin exams coming up in 6 months, if I can play my cards right and use my pay from my missions as well as my skills I have, I might be able to turn a place that could be condemned before the end of the year and get it ready between now and then, and possibly rent it out to a feudal lord or some other wealthy VIP to stay in while they're here, so they won't have to stay in a hotel with those they feel are below their station. Pride a weapon just like any other that can be used for or against you. I could let them rent the house for a month at half the price it's going to cost me to buy the place, and with a few others I could earn enough off the guests to pay for it all at that time. Inoichi said, "That's actually a very good idea if you can get them to stay there, that is." Naruto said, "Gigi always telling me how the Fire Lord hates the fact he has to stay in a hotel when he comes here even though he owns a house here. Something about a pet allergy or something. I could talk to Gigi to offer my services so he won't have to deal with the hotel or his wife's pet." Inoichi thought, Tora, and said, "Yeah, I can understand his allergies. We all the time get customers who come in here with allergies." Naruto nods and said, "Well, are you interested in the place or not, Ino?" Ino said, "Of course I am. I just got to figure out how to make the money to get it." Inoichi said, "Well, I could help pay your first rent and security deposit." Naruto said, "You know, I could make you an offer for a trade of service in exchange for ignoring the first month's rent and first part of the security deposit." Inoichi narrowed his eyes and said, "What do you have in mind?" Naruto said, "I'm told being a ninja is stressful and people take up hobbies all the time. I'm thinking that if she would be willing to help me get started in understanding plants, herbs, and spices to help me learn to deal with stress until the Chunin exams when she's got nothing better to do, and I could help be a sparring partner to her to help her train in stealth and endurance training." Inoichi said, "You, stealth?" Trying to keep from laughing. Ino frowned and Naruto said, "Laugh all you like, Yamanaka-san, but let me ask you something. Would you rather think that I have a high stealth skill level or the ninja of our village so bad that an academy student can paint the Hokage monument in broad daylight without getting caught until I started banging the paint cans together after I was finished wearing orange and then I outran Chunin, Junin and Anbu for over 2 hours?" Inoichi frowned and said, "Actually, I const your point there. It might be a combination of the two, but you do have better stealth skills than Ino does and your stamina is higher as well. If Ino does not have a problem with it, I don't either, since she's wanting to prove herself, so it will be her choice." Ino said, "I like that idea. I could even teach you about a few medical herbs for healing and poison plants, and I know that I'm pretty weak compared to some, so I want to get stronger." Naruto said, "Trust me, Ino, train with me for a month outside of your team training and your teammates will be forced to work harder just to catch you as you leave them in the dust." Inoichi said, "Naruto, I was wondering, why do you have those bandages covering the side of your face?" Naruto said, "You know how the Inuzuka clan has those weird tattoos. Well, I thought maybe they had some kind of scar there they hide showing what clan they are from, and so I thought it must be out of sight, out of mind, so I figure I could hide my scars the same way." Inoichi said, "I see, so if this is what you want, Ino, I guess I will respect your decision, but if you ever want to come back home, the door is always open." Ino smiled and said, I know, Dad, but I want to prove myself." Inoichi said, "Fine, dear, when do you want to move out?" Naruto said, "Well, if we are in agreement, then here is the year contract for you to sign," as he pulled out a scroll. Inoichi looked it over and Ino signed it, and Naruto said, "So do we have a deal on the training me on plants?" Ino said, "As long as you don't take it easy on me in training as well." Naruto said, "All right, here's the key to the apartment. It's got furniture already, but if you don't want it I can move it to one of my other apartments," as he handed the key to her. Ino's eyes got wide and said, "This is?" Naruto said, "Yeah, it's the one with the great view of the village." Ino smiled and said, "Thank you, Naruto." Naruto said, "Hey, what are friends for? Well, I must be going. If you need me for anything, my apartment is the 3rd floor." Inoichi asked, "Do you mean on the 3rd floor?" Naruto smiled and said, "No, I mean the entire 3rd floor. I remodeled that floor, turning it into a big loft. Just take the stairs up to the 3rd floor and knock on any of the doors." Ino said, "Right, well, I guess I can start packing my things so I can move in right away." Inoichi smiled and said, My little princess is growing up. Naruto said. Princess huh? That's not what I see when I look at Ino. Inoichi scowled and said, really? And what do you see? Ino, who was almost out of the room, looked back and Naruto said, a strong, beautiful, and proud Kunoichi of the Leaf Village. Ino smiled and walked out of the room and Inoichi said, perhaps, but she will always be my little princess, relaxing the glare he was sending to Naruto. Naruto said, well, I need to go, CYA around. As he left. That evening Naruto was in his apartment when there was a knock on one of the doors and he went to one of the other doors and opened it and saw Ino standing there and he leaned against the door frame and said, Ino. Ino said, Master, may I come in? Naruto stepped aside and Ino walked in and she looked around before she said, so you really did turn the entire third floor into a loft? Naruto said, yeah, took me about 6 months to do it. Ino turned and asked, why did you want me to move out of my home, master? Naruto said, you want to prove to people who you are. Also, if people saw you coming here every day, they would start talking, and you know how rumors are. Until I claim my family name, I don't want to see you get hurt in the crossfire, so by having you move into the building, you can just claim you're renting a place here. Also, what I said about training is real. I'm going to have you work just as hard as I do to prove how strong you are. Besides, also mentioning about my hobby will give you a chance to help me with my bloodline without raising any questions. Ino said, I see. I guess that would work, but Dad and I agreed on 2 days a week me working at our family business and I get $100 a day. How will I survive on that? Naruto said, taking missions, Ino. By being forced to work for a living instead of having everything given to you, you will learn the true value of $1 and appreciate what you have even more. Ino said, I hope you're right. Daddy bought me a week's worth of groceries and a few other items he thought I might need. Naruto said, good, tomorrow we get our teams and I expect you to do that. Ino blushed and said, yes, master, do I get a reward for today? Naruto walked over and asked, do you think you deserve a reward? As he whispered the last word by her ear. Ino shuddered, closing her eyes, and Naruto pressed his lips to hers and held her close. After a few moments when they both had to breath, Ino was panting and Naruto said, never question if you deserve a reward or not, Ino. I will decide when you do or don't. As he smacked her lightly, making her eep. Ino quickly said, sorry, master. Naruto said, it's fine this time, now go get you some rest. Ino nods and quickly left and Naruto sighed and said, woman. The next morning when Ino awoke, she was startled a moment as she tried to figure out where she was when the events of the previous day came back to her and she thought, that's right, this is my apartment now, it's 6 a.m., that means I got 2 hours before I have to be at the academy for team selection. I guess I could start getting ready. 2 hours later, Ino walked into the academy classroom and looked around and saw a rose floating in the air before sitting on a desk in the back of the room, and Ino thought, I don't know how he did it, but I know that is Naruto doing that. As she walked over to the wall by the door and leaned against it. Kiba said, what's this? You're here before Sakura and you're not trying to get near Sasuke, who are you? Ino said, it's me, dog breath. I just happened to have decided since we're no longer in the academy to drop the Act 1 like the cold-hearted bastard. After all, he served his purpose by letting me be a leader to all the other wannabe kunoichi and make sure I'm the strongest in the class physically, with Sakura beating me by 2 points in book smarts and following right behind me in second place in physical. Now I have the best chance of being one of the lucky ones who will pass the real genin test while the others will fail from being too weak besides Sakura. At this, everyone was stunned, looking at Ino and Sakura, who was outside the door and had started to come in, asked, is that true, Ino? Ino looked at Sakura and said, I had to watch my best friend's back. By making sure you were my rival all these years, I made sure you would try to outdo me in everything which would make you able to pass. If you want Sasuke, you can have him. As she walked over and kissed Sakura on the cheek and said, good luck, Sakura, and this is yours if you want. As she handed Sakura a ribbon and walked to the back of the room and sat down at the desk where the rose was. Everyone was gaping and Sakura looked at the ribbon and then at Ino and then at Sasuke, and Sakura said, so, this is on the level, you don't want Sasuke-kun? Ino said, nope, On my honor as heiress of the Yamanaka clan, I swear I don't want anything to do with him. Sakura nods and looked at Sasuke and then at Ino again and said, "Wait, what are you doing here, Naruto, and how did you get by Ino?" Causing everyone to look back and see Naruto sitting there in his new cloths with the bandages over where the whiskers had been. Naruto said, "I was sitting back here the whole time and waved Ino to come back because I was going to ask her if she found anything wrong with the apartment she's renting now." I guess with everyone shocked, Ino finally quite pretending to be a fangirl, everyone was too distracted to see me. "So, did you find anything wrong?" Ino said, "No, Dad even went over the entire apartment looking for anything that might be wrong, and he said I lucked out with one of the best apartments in the village. I mean, with all the security and privacy I got, I don't have to worry about any trouble." Naruto said, "Glad you like it, and remember, if anything messes up, you know where my apartment is to complain." Ino nods and a girl said, "Like you could do anything dead last." Naruto looked bored at the girl and said, "Actually, for your information, I'm certified by the village safety commission and building inspector as a carpenter, painter, electrician, plumber, mason worker, and iron worker. I've owned the entire building I live in since I was 6 years old after the council declared me an adult, and I have had the village do inspections every 3 months since then to make sure it passes all the village health codes. I've even had the fire lord himself stay in my building once because it was more comfortable and safer than one of the 4-star hotels. I've mostly rented out to ninja of our village. Had my last tenants not died on a mission a few months back, Ino wouldn't have been able to get an apartment, but when one died along with the rest of her team, her fiancé moved out along with 2 of his friends who were engaged to members of the team that died. To many memories of good times with their loved ones. I've waited until now to rent them out again to give them and the rest of their family time to get their belongings out since it was painful for them. So are we ready to find out our team's Iruka-sensei?" Ignoring the astonished looks everyone had. Iruka smiled and said, "Yes, we are. Everyone please take a seat." Now on to the teams. Team 7 is Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki, and Sakura Haruno. Sakura screamed, "Yes." Iruka said, "Now Team 8 is Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame, and Hinata Hyuga. Team 9 is still in service, so Team 10 is Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamaiki, and Ino Yamanaka. You're all dismissed, but be back at 1 to meet your sensei." Naruto said, "Hey Ino, if you need me today for anything, I probably won't be available. I plan to go see the Hokage after I meet my sensei. I have a drop box by my door, so just leave a message there if you need me and I will come by to fix whatever is wrong when I get home. By the way, here is the receipt for your security deposit. Can you check it and make sure everything is right?" Ino took the paper and noticed a second paper, and Naruto winked at her with his eye that wasn't seen to anyone else, and she looked at it and said, "Looks right, thanks," as she slipped the second paper to the front and read, "Ino, if you got time, I want you to run from the bottom of the Hokage monument to the front gates and back again and time yourself. If you have to stop and rest, write down how many times and how long so that way I can judge your stamina to better help you train. Just drop the results in that box and I will get the results later. Besides that, you can do what you want, but keep things looking official, landlord and renter for now. I need to keep things quiet for the most part until I can better use my bloodline, at which point I can reveal things. Good luck with your team." Ino got up and left the room, seeing everyone was leaving to eat, and after she was gone, Naruto noticed that he was alone and he left the room. Sakura began to chase after Sasuke but stopped and went after Ino instead. She found Ino sitting on the roof of the academy and she walked over and asked, "Ino pig?" Ino said, "Yes, Sakura." Sakura frowned and said, Why break us up? Why make me think you wanted to be with Sasuke? Why don't you call me forehead?" Ino sighed and said, "Sakura, there are things about me you don't know, things that nobody but one person knows. At one time I thought you could be trusted with these things, but then you started to treat me like everyone else does. Yes, I'm an heiress to a clan, but I don't want to be seen as one. I want people to see me as me. Only one person actually hasn't had the balls to do what was needed to prove that he saw me as me. We were best friends, Sakura, and then you put me on a pedestal where I was everything you wanted to be. You quit seeing me as me. When you did that, I had to do something to keep from losing another friend. That was why I created the act of liking Sasuke and became your rival. The name I called you was a challenge. I wanted you to stop seeing me as everything you wanted to be and become who you wanted to be. I want us to be friends, Sakura, but I don't want you to see me as what you want to be. I want you to show me and everyone else who you are. The world is not a fairy tale. The prince doesn't always ride in on a white horse to save the damsel in distress. Sakura said, I know that, Ino. Ino said, then why are you living your life like you think it is? You're walking the same path I was on, Sakura, one that would have left me dead or worse. I got a wake-up call that opened my eyes. Please, look at yourself, and I mean really look at yourself. If you can live with who you are right now, then fine, be that way and I'll put flowers on your grave. Please, become who you were meant to be, not who everyone else wants you to be. As she got up and started toward the stairs, Sakura bit her lip and said, wait. Ino stopped and Sakura asked, how did you change who you are? Ino smiled and said, the person who opened my eyes told me about the goddesses of fate, destiny, and chance. The only fate we all share is death, the only destiny anyone has is to be born. Chance is based on our own choices. He told me Kami gave everything one gift. The gift of choice. It may not be easy and at times I have to stop myself from going back to the way I was, but I made a choice to change and I chose to keep changing from what I was to who I want to be. I've already fulfilled my destiny. I will someday meet my fate. Until then my choices will decide my life and there is a chance I will become what I want, but if I don't then the choice of what I do become is still mine. If you want to change, Sakura, then make the choice to change and stick with that choice. As she turned and left, Sakura thought, who told you something so profound, Ino? Am I happy with who I am? As she sat down. 10 minutes after leaving the classroom, Naruto found Iruka in the teacher's lounge and said, hey Iruka-sensei. Iruka said, hey Naruto, how's it going? Naruto looked around and said, pretty good. I was wondering, could you do me a small favor? Iruka said, I'm not buying you ramen again. With a smile. Naruto laughed and said, no, not that. I was wondering, is there any chakra control exercises you could tell me about to help me get better? I want to become a better, stronger ninja and I know my chakra control will be the most important thing right now. Iruka looked at Naruto a moment and said, do you remember the leaf exercise where you had to float it on your head? I tried to teach you, Kiba, Choji, and Shikamaru. Naruto thought a moment and said, a little. As he rubbed his head embraced. Iruka said, I wish I could teach you a more advanced one, but that is all I am allowed to teach you. What you need to do is make it float above your head about an inch and keep it there. If you can try to get it to spin in a circle while keeping it in place. Naruto nods and thought a moment and asked, can I use other things besides a leaf, like a small stone or something to make it harder, or can I do it other places besides my head? Iruka smiled and said, those are both very good questions and I am impressed. The answer to both are yes, but I would start with the leaf. I will tell you what. If you are really serious about getting better in chakra control, then if you can get it where you can float a leaf on both your hands, your feet, and your head all at the same time for 5 minutes without stopping, I will request permission from the Hokage to teach you a more advanced version. Naruto smiled and said, is it okay if I cheat a little to learn it? Iruka blinked and asked, what do you mean cheat? How can you cheat to learn chakra control? Naruto said, well, I've been training the last couple of days and I've used Kujbunshians on several occasions to help me set up things, and I discovered anything they learn is transferred back to me and the other clones when dispelled. I figured if I have one clone work on one place at a time while other clones are working on another, then I could learn this exercise really quick. Iruka thought a moment and said, I did not know that. I will allow you to use that to help you, but I want you to learn to hold 10 leaves for 5 minutes in the air. That way you will have better control in more places. Naruto said, I will, Iruka-sensei, and thanks. You don't know how much this means to me. There's something else I want to tell you, but until I talk to the Hokage about it and he agrees it is the right time, I have to keep quiet. Iruka said, I am sure whatever it is will be something I won't forget. By the way, what is with the cloths and the bandages on your face? Naruto said, the cloths are part of what I want to tell you about, but the bandages are sort of out of sight, out of mind thing. Iruka nods and said, Well, I got a lot of work to do and you only have 20 minutes left before you are to meet your sensei. Naruto nods and said, "Thank you for everything, Iruka-sensei, and I wish now I had been a better student. Goodbye," as he turned and left. Iruka smiled and thought, "It seems that learning the truth is helping you to be a better person, Naruto. I'm proud of you." Naruto went back to the classroom and saw the other teens coming in the room, and Naruto saw Sakura sitting at a desk beside Sasuke looking in deep thought, and he walked over and sat on the desk in front of them and said, "Well, I guess since we're on the same team we should make the best of it, so I got a deal for you, Sakura-chan." Sakura frowned and said, "No, I am not going out with you, Naruto." Naruto laughed and said, "That wasn't what I was going to say, in fact it was going to be the exact opposite. I was going to offer you a deal where I would never ask you out again if you answer just one little question for me. It's actually something me and Ino talked about and I was just wondering if you could answer it." Ino, who walked in hearing her name, asked, "What are you talking about?" Naruto walked over to where Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura was. Naruto said, "I was just telling Sakura-chan if she could answer one question for me that I would never ask her out again. It's the same question I asked you about Sasuke that you couldn't answer." Sakura ears perked up as Ino realized what Naruto was talking about, and Sakura said, "What is it?" Naruto said, "Besides Sasuke family name, his looks, and his money, what about Sasuke makes you want to go out with him more than anyone else? I mean, if it's one of those three reasons I mentioned, then it seems you're shallow, so I am asking, what do you see in him that makes you want to be with him more than any other guy?" Sakura said, "Well, he's smart." Ino said, "So is Shikamaru, but he's just too lazy to use his brain unless he wants to." "What else?" Sakura said, "He's strong." Naruto said, "And so is Choji." Sakura bit her lip and said, "He's cool." Naruto blinked and said, "How the hell can a guy who says the word HN as his answer to nearly everything be considered cool? He's a frosty bitch, I'll give you that, but how the hell is that cool?" Sakura said, "Don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. You're just jealous that he's better than you." Naruto said, "Really? And how do you know I am jealous? What do you actually know about me?" Sakura said, "Well, you're an orphan." Naruto said, "So is Sasuke, go on." Sakura said, "You love ramen and eat it for every meal." Naruto said, "Nope, if you ask Sasuke, it gets lonely eating a meal that you had to cook yourself by yourself all the time. I like to eat at Ikiruka because Ayame and Tuki are both kind people who always make time to talk to each of their customers and treat them like family. I actually love something else." Next, Sakura frowned and said, "You're a prankster." Naruto snickered and said, "I use pranking as a way to train and test myself, Sakura. How hard do you think it was for an academy student in broad daylight wearing orange to paint the Hokage monument and not get caught until I started banging my paint cans together to get everyone's attention and then outran Chunin, Junin, and Anbu for a while before I was finally caught? Since I am an orphan and didn't have anyone to help me, I thought by testing and improving my skills in live demonstration instead of a controlled environment where nothing could go wrong would help me improve my actual skills. If I can set traps Anbu fall for and sneak around without being caught setting up all those pranks in an area full of ninja, how good do you think I would be on an actual mission where my life and the lives of my teammates are in danger? I may not be as smart as Shikamaru, strong as Choji, good at tracking as Kiba, or as powerful as everyone thinks Sasuke is, but I'm good in other areas that my teammates might not be good at. Why else do you think they put us on teams of 3? To cover for each other's weaknesses." At this, everyone who was in the class was thinking over his answers, and Iruka, who came in hearing it, said, "That is exactly right, Naruto. Konoha is the strongest off all the ninja villages because we believe in teamwork more than any other village, and our teammates cover our weakness to make the group stronger than we are individually." Kiba said, "Damn dude, who are you and what have you done with the dead last? I mean, there's no way you're that smart." Naruto said, "Well, I guess you could say I'm sort of like Ino and Sakura in a way. Ino stronger but Sakura smarter. Most of you are smarter than me since you had family and clans to help you, but in physical skills I give you a good run for your money. You all know the only one I've never beat was Sasuke when we spar. I've beat you all at least once because I thought of ways to fight you that you never encountered before. Everyone thought over his answer and Sakura said, "Hey, how come you pass? I mean, we all saw you fail." Uruka said, "Actually, Sakura, Mizuki, when he was grading the written test, marked one answer wrong that was right, so it made it where Naruto passed instead of failed when I saw it and just checked to see if it would have made a difference and found it did," quickly helping Naruto out, who smiled so he wouldn't have to reveal the truth. Sakura said, "Oh." Uruka smiled and the door opened up as Junins began to come pick up their teams. Finally, it was only Team 7 left. Naruto frowned after 10 minutes of waiting and put his hands together and said, "Kujibunshin no Jutsu." As 20 clones appers shocking Sasuke and Sakura, and Naruto said, "Alright, I want you all to go and grab a leaf outside and divide up into teams of 4 and have each group either work on a hand, foot, or head. Go." All the clones said, "Hi boss." As they quickly went outside, and Uruka smiled as he worked on cleaning out his desk, and Naruto got down on the floor and began to do sit-ups. Sakura said, "Why did you create those clones and why are you doing sit-ups, Baka?" Naruto said, "If I got time to sit and do nothing, then I got time to make myself a better ninja. The Kujibunshin transfer any info they gain back to me when dispelled, and since chakra control is my worst area, I am having them work on a chakra control exercise that we were taught in the academy." Sakura said, "Well, you're stupid for tiring yourself out before we meet our sensei." Naruto said, "If you say so, Sakura, but I'm not going to be the weakest person on our team if I can help it," causing Sakura to glare. Sasuke said, "Teach me that just you, Dobi." Naruto said, "Sorry Sasuke, I found it in an old scroll laying on the ground and I plan to make it part of my family jutsu when I someday have a family." Uruka said, "You don't have the chakra for it either, Sasuke, it's a kinjutsu for a reason. It could cause you to die from chakra exhaustion. If Naruto didn't do as much physical exercise as he did over the years, then he wouldn't have the chakra levels to use that jutsu." Naruto after 5 minutes asked, "Hey Uruka sensei, how late is our sensei going to be?" Uruka said, "I have no idea and I have to leave in a few minutes anyways. I want to wish you all good luck. I'll come back by later and lock the doors. I need to run to the teacher's lounge before I leave. Have a good day." As he got up and left with a stack of scrolls and books. Naruto after another 15 minutes started to do push-ups for 15 minutes, then squats for 15 minutes, and then he began to run up and down the stairs high-stepping. After this, Naruto sat down and Sakura said, "You're tired now?" Naruto said, "Not really, but I'm getting bored. If sensei comes, tell him I'll be right back." As he left the room, he walked down the hall and stopped outside the academy library, and he looked inside a moment and walked in and thought, maybe going through some of these will help. But what? I guess I could learn a little about everything. If I create a few Kujibunshin and have them start to read a book from each section, it should help me. As he put his hands together and after 30 Kujibunshin appeared, and Naruto frowned and thought, I only wanted to make 6. Oh well. And said, alright, I only wanted to make 6, but since you're all here, I want you to divide up into teams of 5. Each team will start reading a different book in each sections. A clone asked, how come you don't have us read everything or make enough of us to read everything at once? Naruto said, because I don't know what will happen if I do. Just each of you take one book and begin to read it from the section your team is at, and when you finish the book, dispel. That way you all won't finish at the same time and I can get the memories without mixing them up. The clones said, right boss, as they each went and grabbed a book and began to read. Naruto turned and left the library. It was 15 minutes after he left the classroom. Naruto walked in again and Sakura said, where have you been, Baka? Sensei could have been here any minute. Naruto said, I went to the library and had a few clones read a couple of books I never had the time to read while here, and I went to the gym and got these, as he showed a coup of hand weights. Sakura said, what did you get a couple of weights for? Naruto smirked and said, these are to help me with my sword training. I've had this sword a couple of days now and I've been getting used to the weight of walking around with it on, not to slow me down. I wanted to get used to that weight before I got used to the weight of actually holding it. I think I've gotten used to the weight since I don't even feel it anymore, so I want to do the same thing with my arms when I am actually holding the sword, but if I were to hold it in here while we wait. and tried to move with it, I might accidentally hit one of you or a desk or something and have to pay for the damage, so I weighed my sword with the scales in the gym and I got a pair of hand weights that weigh about 3 pounds more than my sword does, so if I can get a feel of how this weight will affect my body until sensei gets here, then I have an idea of what I need to do to get used to the weight of my sword. As he began to move his arms while holding the weights and moving, judging how his body moved. Both Sasuke and Sakura were thinking over what he said, and Sasuke asked, "Who are you? Because there is no way you're the Dobi." Naruto said, "Or have I been faking all these years to hide my real skills?" Deception is a ninja #1 asset. As a smirk appeared on his face, causing both to frown. Naruto said, "Relax, Tem. If you must know, I met someone, an Uzumaki," causing both Sasuke and Sakura to go wide-eyed. Sakura said, "So you met a family member?" Naruto said, "Sort of. I'm not allowed to tell who or how until the Chunin exams in 6 months. I have to make it to the exams in 6 months, so I am going to do everything I can to show that I am ready for them, to you and to our sensei. I've spent the last few days trying to make myself better. I've taken up a new hobby instead of pranking that will allow me to be more calm. I'm taking my training serious, and I'm trying to be more presentable so that way my family, past, present, and future, will be proud to have me as a member of their family. You don't know what it's like to go from hearing everyone tell you that you're just an unwanted bastard child who parents should have killed you the day you were born to actually knowing where you came from, sort of." As he kept moving his body in taijutsu kata that were messed up and trying to balance his body with the extra weight. Sakura bit her lip and glanced at Sasuke, who seemed to be in thought, and Sasuke said, "Slide your left foot to the left a half-step, Dobi." Naruto blinked and looked at Sasuke before he slid his left foot a half-step, and he said, "I feel like my balance is better, thanks, Tem." Sasuke said, just don't slow us down, Dobi." Naruto said, "Just try not to fall too far behind, Tem." As he tried going through the rest of the academy taijutsu, as Sasuke gave a small smirk as Naruto gave a small smile. Sakura blinked as she looked between them and thought, did they just become friends? This was the sight Kakashi walked in and said, "My first impression of you is, I hate you." With a smile. Naruto scowled and Kakashi said, "Meet me on the roof and don't be late," as he went up in smoke. Naruto thought, great, as he started toward the roof but stopped at the library and said, "Boy, one of you take these back to the gym and put them up and then come back to finish reading," as he set the 2 weights down before following Sasuke and Sakura. When they got to the roof and sat down, Kakashi said, "Now why don't we introduce ourselves?" Sakura said, "Why don't you go first, sensei, to show us how it's done?" Kakashi said, My name is Hatake Kakashi, my like and dislikes are none of your business, dreams for the future. I have hobbies. You next, Pinky." Everyone thought. All we learned was his name. And Sakura said, "My name is Sakura Haruno, I like, glance, dream, glance, plan for the future, glance again at Sasuke." Kakashi said, "And you dislikes?" Sakura started to open her mouth and stopped and said, "Actually, I don't know." Kakashi said, "I see, you next, Mr. Broody." Sasuke said, "My name is Sasuke Uchiha, I don't have many likes or dislikes. I have a dream, no, and a reality that I will see come to pass. I will restore my clan and kill a certain someone." Kakashi said, "And finally you, Sunshine." Naruto said, "Name's Naruto, for now I have a short-term dream to get as strong as possible between now and the Chunin exams in 6 months. After that I will see what my future brings. I have started learning about plants to calm me down so I don't prank anymore. I hope to help both my teammate reach their goals." Kakashi nods and said, "Very well. Tomorrow I want you to meet me at Training Ground 7 at 5 a.m. to be tested, and don't eat or you will throw up." Sakura said, "What kind of test?" Kakashi smiled behind his mask and said, "You're going to freak out. It's a test that has a 66.6% failure rate. Of all the genins that passed, only 9 will become actual genins. The test you took in the academy was to see if you had the skills to take the actual test." Naruto said, "Wait a minute, if there are only 9 who pass, then that means 3 teams. Konoha believes in teamwork more than any other village." Sakura said, "That's right, Iruka-sensei commented about that after you pointed out that you may not be as good as Sasuke and me in some areas but in others you are better than us. Sasuke said, to cover our own weakness to make a stronger team. Naruto smiled and said, this is a test about teamwork, isn't it? It's a do or die question. You're going to put us in a test to see if we would put our goals ahead of the good of the mission. Like Sasuke, for example, he wants to kill someone. If we were at war with Iwa again and our mission was spying on Iwa to find out how they plan to attack us and we got the info but were discovered in Sakura and I stayed back to buy Sasuke time to get the info back to Konoha and on his way back he ran into the guy Sasuke wants to kill, would he let the sacrifice Sakura and I made so he could save our village be for nothing so he could kill the guy? Sasuke frowned and said, I hate you Dobi, you know that right? Naruto said, hey, I could have said that Sakura was our team medic and I had got the info but had my legs cut off and she had to carry me back with you guarding her and you got hurt with a critical wound. She could either save you and doom our village or save me and doom you. Sakura said, do you stay up at night thinking of ways to make me hate you? Naruto smirked and Sasuke said, what about you Dobi? If you could think of that then you must have thought of one for yourself. Naruto's smirk slowly fell away as his eyes glossed over and his voice came out quietly, the choice was never mine to make Sasuke. See ya tomorrow. As he got up and started toward the door. Sasuke and Sakura looked confused while Kakashi looked sadly at Naruto and Sakura asked, what was he talking about? Sasuke said, I don't know. Kakashi bit his lip and said, those who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Naruto was put in one of those type of situations when he was younger. Someone made the choice for him without asking him for his decision and he now has to live each day with that person's decision. Don't ask him about it because it's painful for him but, you all already figured out the secret behind the test I was going to give you. There's no reason I need to test you so meet at training ground 7 at 7 a.m. We will do some sparring so I can judge your skills myself and then take our first mission. I'll go inform Naruto. As he left in a swirl of leaves. Naruto was quiet as he walked through the village in thought when a hand touched his shoulder and the next moment he was standing on a roof and he looked back and saw Kakashi and Kakashi said, I just wanted to tell you that you already passed the test and that you are to meet at 7 a.m. at training ground 7. We will have some sparring so I can judge your skills and then we will begin missions. You are the first to ever see through the test and the first team to ever pass my test. Those who don't follow the rules are trash but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Naruto looked over the village a moment and said, what about those who try to kill their comrades? Kakashi seemed confused and asked, what do you mean? Naruto said, am I a part of this village or not? I've made a promise that I will forgive them of everything the people's done but the problem with forgiving is you don't forget. If those who don't follow the rules are trash then everyone who's broke the Sandaime law are trash, but what about those who even now abandon me and limit me to try and have me die? Kakashi frowned and said, I don't know what to tell you Naruto. Naruto said, thanks for being honest Inu. I recognize your voice and hair. Kakashi said, I see. Naruto said, I will do my best and work hard to serve Konoha until the Chunin exams are over. If the people can't see the truth after that I'm going to have a talk with Gigi. If there's never been an Uzumaki in this village like he claims then Uzumaki not my real name. If it's not my real name all my ninja forms are not legal and I can resign legally or just walk away. I won't stay where I'm not wanted. My parents wouldn't have wanted that for me. I'm sure of that, even if they're not alive somewhere they would want me safe and happy, not, as he shrugged his shoulders. Kakashi bit his lip behind his mask and said, it might not be that simple Naruto. Naruto said, I know, but if it turns out Gigi lied to me how can I trust him not to have me killed? After all, how is it that Mizuki was able to give me the combination to the Hokage vault when only him and I guess the two elders should have access to that? Kakashi frowned and thought, that is a very good question, and said, I don't know Naruto. Naruto smiled and said, so, are you going to be 3 hours late tomorrow? I only ask because I've got my Kajbunshin working on the leaf balancing chakra control exercise to help me get my control up there faster, and I also want to send a couple of clones to the library under a henge to read anatomy and poisons. I figure if the furball makes it where I want die from poisons, then maybe I could become a poison expert. He's got to be good for something, I guess. Kakashi thought, maybe, and said, Naruto, I want you to be honest with me. What do you think about your teammates? Naruto said, Sasuke a flight risk. He would betray Konoha in a heartbeat if someone offered him power to kill his brother. As for Sakura, right now she's a fangirl, but I'm hoping that since Ino taking things more serious now that she can help Sakura to also. Kakashi said, what I'm about to tell you, you can't tell anyone. The Hokage also feels Sasuke as a flight risk. Naruto said, if you're going to tell me about how you're supposed to spend more time with Sasuke to make him more loyal or to keep an eye on him and kill him when he betrays the village, I already know. His mental evaluation was on Gigi's desk when he went to explain what to do with Mizuki. I glanced at it and thought Gigi was stupid to pay someone to do an evaluation on him when anyone with two eyes could see how he is. The thing is, I think Sasuke being tricked. Kakashi asked, what do you mean? Naruto said, I've been to the Uchiha clan district since the massacre. The blood is still on the inside of the houses dried, so nobody cleaned up the place, but how is it a clan that specializes in fire jutsu couldn't get a single fire jutsu off to kill Itachi? There's not one single scorch mark on any walls or building. It's just not possible that someone is that fast and strong to do it by himself. Even the Yondaime from stories I read had to dodge some jutsu even when he was using the Hiraishin. There's no way Itachi faster than the Yondaime was. The only thing I could think of is that it was Danzo en route. Kakashi looked at Naruto shocked and asked, what makes you say that? Naruto said, well, Gigi told me to stay away from Danzo and any Anbu with the mask with the kanji on them, root. I know Danzo tried to kidnap one of the clan heirs at least twice already. I have proof of that, so if he's willing to kidnap to get a clan's bloodline, why wouldn't he be willing to kill to get it? Itachi loved Sasuke. I remember when he was my guard as a kid how he talked about his little brother. Itachi would give his life to save his brother, so if Itachi did kill his clan, he had help and he only would do it to save Sasuke. That is what I honestly believe. Kakashi frowned behind his mask and said, are you sure you have proof Danzo tried to kidnap an heir to a clan? Naruto said, would the word of the heir he tried to get be enough proof? Kakashi placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and they left in a swirl of leaves. They appeared in the Hokage office and the Sandaime said, ah Kakashi, Naruto, to what do I owe the pleasure? Kakashi said, well, Naruto and I were having a small talk after his team already passed my test. Team 7 is official, sir, but Naruto brought up a few things that I found very interesting and thought you should hear. The Sandaime said, and those are? Kakashi said, Naruto told me Mizuki gave him the combination to the Hokage safe. He asked how could Mizuki get that with only you and possibly the elders knowing it. He also mentioned to me how he believes that Danzo en route killed the Uchiha clan and that he has proof that Danzo has tried to kidnap an heir to one of the clans twice already. The Sandaime paled and looked at Naruto and said, you have the combination. Naruto said, 6, 13, 3, 9. The Sandaime frowned and said, what about the proof you have about the kidnapping? Naruto said, you remember when the orphanage manager was arrested after he broke my arm and I had a girl's coat? That coat belonged to a girl Ino was helping to escape from the orphanage. I took the coat to make him chase me when I saw what was going on. I never told anyone about Ino or the girl until Ino and I were talking recently and she saw the coat I had from that night which I kept. Ino told me that after she helped the girl to escape after I lured the guy away from them, the girl was meeting a woman who was dressed like an Anbu but had kanji on the mask. The woman tried to talk Ino into going with them to serve her master and Ino got angry and ran away back home after they got in an argument. A year later the girl Ino saved came to Ino and tried to get her to leave her family and join the girl's master, promising her a better life. Ino told me they got in another argument and the girl left. I never told Ino I knew about who those root ninja were, but I was telling Kakashi if Danzo would try and get Ino twice, an heiress to one of the clans, what's stopping him from killing members of a clan to get their bloodline? I mean, I already proved to Kakashi-sensei there is no way one person killed that clan by himself. Itachi would have to have been faster than the Yondaime using Hiraishin, and even then at least one of them should have gotten a jutsu off, and yet there is not one single scorch mark on any building. The blood's still there, so nobody cleaned the place up and fired jutsu or something every Uchiha knew. I wouldn't be surprised if Danzo got one of those eyes like Kakashi-sensei does under his bandages. Itachi loved Sasuke. If he was involved, the only way he would have killed his clan if it was to save Sasuke's life. I honestly believe that Gigi. The Sandaime frowned and thought, why didn't I think of that? They told me Itachi did it by himself, but if there is not even one scorch mark, then there is no way he could have, and said, who all knows about this Naruto? Naruto said, just me. The Sandaime said, I'm going to look into this. I'll ask Ino about what you told me, she said. Until then I want you to keep quiet about it. Naruto said, I know. I've got enough to worry about already. Kakashi said, that reminds me, sir, there were a few other things that was said I think you should know. Naruto thinking about becoming a poison expert. He thinks with Kyuubi stopping all the poisons he'd been in contact with, he might be able to become Konoha best poison expert. He also accidentally read Sasuke mental evaluation and knows about my orders. I was thinking, maybe Naruto might be able to spend some time learning under her. She could teach him a thing or two about poisons. Naruto said, if you're going to tell him, you might as well tell him everything. I also recognize Inu's voice and hair from when I was younger, and I also said that I made a promise that I will forgive Konoha for everything they done to me up till now. I am going to do my best for the next 6 months to prove I'm me and not the fox. The village has had 15 years to get over their pain and suffering from the fox, and yet each year they throw a party rejoicing in the pain they cause me. If after the Chunin exams are over the village can't accept me, then I'm going to resign and leave the village. You told me there are no Uzumaki ever in the village, so that means that Uzumaki isn't my real name. If it's not my real name, then that means all my ninja paperwork is illegal, so I will have no legal bond to Konoha. My parents, whoever they are or were, would want me to be safe and happy, not living each day hated and in fear of who will stab me in the back next. The Sandaime frowned and said, it's not that easy, Naruto. Naruto gave him a deadpan expression and said, what's not that easy? Everything in life is a choice. The Yondaime chose me to be a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice. You chose to reveal it to the village, the people choosing to attack me, the people choosing to ignore your law, someone choosing to aid Mizuki in trying to get me killed by giving him the combination to that safe. In life we all have choices. I chose to give the village one more chance. If the people of the village chose to dishonor mine and my family sacrifices for them, then I chose they don't deserve me and I'll chose to leave. It could go the other way. The village could chose to try and push me even further until I snap and chose to take as many as I can with me when I go. I'm no different than anyone else. I am a product of my choices and the choices of those around me. Right now you could be lying to me and chose to hide from me who my parents are, thinking it's safer for me not to know. If I find out later that is the case, it's my choice to ever believe you again. The Sandaime frowned and said, I see your point. If it comes down to it, will you leave before the Chunin exams? Naruto said, no, I made a promise and I always keep my promise. I am going to earn my chance to be in the exams and I will make it to the finals and show everyone who I really am. If they chose to ignore it, then I will leave. The Sandaime said, very well, is that all? Naruto said, no, I was coming here to see you for something when Kakashi-sensei stopped me. I wanted to know if you could get me one of those big scrolls like the Forbidden Scroll and also give me a seal on my arm. Kakashi asked, why? Naruto said, since I don't know who I really am or where I come from, I don't want my future family to have that same problem. I want to start a family jutsu scroll. I will put down every jutsu I know on the scroll so that way my future family could surpass me. Isn't that the task of every generation, to surpass the one that came before it? By having the seal on my arm I can keep my jutsu with me and safe so no one could steal them from me, Also information that I learned that might be valuable to remind me what is important in life could be put on there. Kakashi-sensei said those who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I know from a certain point of view what I'm thinking about doing. If the people don't change makes me look like I'm lower than trash, but how am I lower than trash when I have no comrades, no friends? In this entire village I have maybe 10 people who give a damn if I even live. I'm not allowed in stores, and those I'm overcharged by 3 times the amount where I have to use henge to get anything to live on. I'm not allowed in the library, and had it not been for my former tenant then I never would have even knew how to read. I have to take this opportunity right now while nobody in the academy to have Kage Bunshin read a few books that might help me later. That reminds me, why don't you use a Kage Bunshin to help you with paperwork? I know the mental feedback might be bad, but if you have one help you for maybe 30 minutes at least, it would get you done 30 minutes earlier. Also, the guy you got training Konohamaru is getting the shit beat out of him right now. One of my Kage Bunshin was training when Konohamaru found him and befriended him, and it taught him my Wai no Jutsu, and his sensei showed up and called me trash, and my Kage Bunshin created a Harem Jutsu with Kage Bunshin mixed in using Wai no Jutsu. The guy blew back with a nosebleed and slid under Team 8 Hot Sensei. She thought he was looking up her dress, and she's beating the shit out of him as we speak. My clone dispelled, letting me know. The Sandame slumped in his chair and began to rub his face and said, "You have given me a lot to think about, Naruto. For what it's worth, I'm sorry the people have treated you the way they have, and I know I haven't always done what's best for you, and for that I am sorry." Naruto said, "Gigi, you're the leader of our village. Not the council, not Danzo, not the advisors, not the clan heads, You're the man who was chosen by both Hashirama and Tobarama Senju as the best man for the job to take care of the garden they started. For many years you made the garden grow and become beautiful, and then you chose the Yondaime to take over for you. He took care of the garden until a snake nobody could see coming attacked him and he died. You took back over as the gardener, but slowly weeds are starting to come up. The weeds are strangling the life out of the garden, one plant at a time. You can't stop all the weeds, but stop the major ones. That way when you find someone to take over the garden for you again, they won't have to worry about the weeds with roots so deep they can't be stopped, cause if you don't, the garden going to be so overgrown by weeds the beautiful flowers the Senju brothers planted won't be able to be seen. Do what you want, I'm only giving you my opinion. Do what you think is best and live with the choices you make." As he turned and started toward the door, Sarutobi said, "Wait, what about the scroll and the seal you wanted?" Naruto said, "I'd like it, but I don't want to be a bother. I can't afford to pay for it, but I thought I would ask. It never hurts to ask for help. That's something I hope Sasuke learns from you, Kakashi-sensei." Sarutobi said, "Kakashi, you can draw a storage seal on his arm for him, right?" Kakashi said, "Yes." Sarutobi said, "All right, take him and draw that seal plus one more on him somewhere. Then I want you to take him where he can get those storage scroll. Take this and give it to the clerk to pay for. Get him 2 of those scrolls. I want you to take one of them home with you and draw storage seals on it, and then teach Naruto how to seal and unseal it. While you're at the weapon shop, also get him supplies that you feel he needs as a ninja and for missions that he can store in the storage scroll you make him. I'll pay for it out of my own pocket, and I'll pay you for your time of drawing those seals." Naruto said, "But Gigi, Sarutobi said, "No, Naruto, consider it pay for telling me about the Kage Bunshin Jutsu as well as for the information you provided me." Kakashi said, "And I'll do it for free to show you that there are people here who care for you. Just like you said, there are still flowers here who want to be seen by you, Naruto. Take your time and look around the weeds and you will find them." Naruto bit his lip and walked over to the window and closed his eyes, and his voice sounded sad as tears fell down his face, and asked, "I used to think I wanted to be Hokage. I thought that if I were able to be Hokage, the people of this village would look up to me. It was a selfish reason. Now that I know what a Hokage must truly do, I don't know if I have what it takes to be one. To me, family and friends are more precious than all the money in the world. I'm selfish because I want to protect those precious to me more than those I want to be seen by. How could he do it? How could he sacrifice his life and his own flesh and blood willingly for these people? I want to be angry at him, but how can I be angry at my father? He did all he could to protect me, but it's not right. As he lowered his head, Sarutobi and Kakashi both looked at Naruto sadly, and Kakashi asked, "What do you mean, Father Naruto?" Naruto said, "They knew before I was ever conceived Mom was going to die from childbirth. She gave her life willingly to have a child and for the love of my father. Dad made sure there would be a way I could hear my mother and be held by her once in my life. The night I got my Hayate, the seal activated and I met Kushina Uzumaki, my mother, as he turned around and reached up and grabbed the bandages on his face and removed them." Naruto still had tears flowing down his face and said, "Dad loved this village so much that he put a genjutsu seal on me. He left a letter to Ujiji telling you he was creating a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice, not one with a demon sealed in them but one that made people think he did to protect Konoha from our enemies because of how weak we were after Kyuubi attack." As he raised his shirt and showed them the seal was gone. Both Kakashi and Sarutobi were shocked and looked at Naruto, who turned back to the window and said, "I don't know if I had to do what he did if I could do it." Sarutobi said, "What? Why haven't you told us about this, Naruto?" Naruto said, "Does it matter?" Sarutobi said, "Yes, it matters." Naruto said, "Why? Is there anything different about me? Have I changed who I am? I'm still what people see me as. I'm still who I was before I found out. With age comes wisdom. I'm a little older and a little wiser, but I'm still the same person I was. You're trying to figure out if what I said is true. Then how did Dad stop Kyuubi? What really happened? If I tell you, then you will want to tell the people repelling your law. Most people will either not believe you or start up to me because of who I am related to. Some will try and use me to make themselves more powerful, and in the end the only person who will truly have anything different about them is me, and I'll have not only my own enemies but my families to worry about, so in the end I'll just start suffering more. People still won't see me as me." Sarutobi frowned and Kakashi said, "He's right, sir." Sarutobi said, "I know, Kakashi. I know." Naruto bit his lip and said, "If," catching both men's attention. Sarutobi said, "If what?" Naruto said, There might be a way to reveal the truth. A person, if you could get her to come here and talk to me alone, or I can go to her and talk to her alone for just a few minutes. She's the only one who could do anything about it, to give me a chance to be seen as me, but it would be her choice on what to do." Sarutobi said, "Who and how do you know she can help?" Naruto said, "My mother told me and gave me something to give to her. Something that will change Konoha forever." Sarutobi said, "Who is it and what is it?" Naruto said, "Tsunade. I need to speak with Tsunade Senju. She's the only one who will know what it is my mother told me about and the only one who could change things. The secret behind how Dad stopped Kyuubi, everything is all linked to what I need to speak to Tsunade about. I wish I could say more but I can't. I promised I wouldn't and I never break my promises." Sarutobi frowned and Naruto said, "Please, she's the only chance I have. I would give up everything if you would just let me speak with her, just once," with hope in his voice and in his eyes. Sarutobi said, "Kakashi, you said Team 7 has passed already." Kakashi said, "Yes, sir." Sarutobi looked at Naruto and said, "Are you sure, Naruto? Are you sure that Tsunade could help you or that she would want to?" Naruto said, "Yes, what I have is something that will make her very happy and me as well. I'm positive she will most likely keep me by her side the rest of her life." Sarutobi thought a moment and his eyes went wide and said, "Wait, if you don't have Kyuubi, then how are you able to heal so fast?" Naruto flinched and said, "Shit, I was hoping you wouldn't think of that. I have two bloodlines. One from my father and one from my mother. Being able to heal is from my mother's, it's also why I have such large chakra reserves." Sarutobi asked, "And the other?" Naruto bit his lip and after several moments said, "Mokuden," causing both Kakashi and Sarutobi eyes to go wide. Sarutobi asked, "How?" Naruto frowned and reached into his coat and pulled out a scroll and handed it to him. Sarutobi opened it and his eyes went wide-eyed and he said, "So your father was the Shadaime's grandson."